morning, I'm Diane, and this is ViuTV News. Coming up on tonight's show, Carrie Lam meets and greets on her second day in office as she promises to tackle controversial issues such as the MPF offsetting mechanism. The League of Social Democrats' Abe Reeton files a report accusing police officers of physically assaulting him yesterday. And reports in a British newspaper say that Theresa May is planning to walk away from Brexit negotiations over the size of the divorce bill. Well, new Chief Executive Carrie Lam made a number of district visits today on her second day in office as she promised to reach across divides and accommodate different points of view. However, she stressed Hong Kongers should be educated on the basic law and that people shouldn't view this as brainwashing. Evelina Leung has more.
Just one day after being sworn in as chief executive, and Carrie Lam is already trying to show her determination to build bridges. Glad-handing people all over town, her mission is clearly to win over those who may have questions about Hong Kong's direction over the next 5 years. She first appeared at Chok Yuen Village in Ta Kwu Ling. Lam then continued on to Hong Kong. During her meet and greet, Lam spoke to the media about several contentious issues, including the scrapping of the MPF offsetting mechanism proposed by former CE C.Y. Leung just days before his term ended.
Given that there's a lot of opposition in society, a pragmatic way forward will be to again hear out the different stakeholders' views and help them reach a consensus. But we don't have to start from scratch again since a lot of groundwork has been done.
She also spoke on President Xi Jinping's comments that public servants and young people's knowledge of the basic law should be strengthened. Lam said Hong Kongers should, of course, be educated on it, adding that people shouldn't label the process as brainwashing.
Hong Kong people are independent and there's such advanced technology nowadays, so it's almost impossible to brainwash anyone.
However, her new deputy Matthew Cheung has refused to comment on whether the government will try to introduce the controversial national education plans once again, alluded to by President Xi Jinping during his visit. Cheung claimed that more opportunities will be offered to young people, in particular from the new Commission on Youth, a platform designed for younger citizens to make their voices heard. But ultimately, this government wants to emphasize that protecting the country's sovereignty still comes first.
Meantime, pro-democracy activists have said that Carrie Lam has a major task at hand if she wants harmony in Hong Kong, and that is to rein in police violence. The League of Social Democrats' Abe Reeton has today filed a police report alleging that he was assaulted by officers in a police van yesterday. Here's Lydia Song.
In the police report he filed today, the League of Social Democrats chairman said officers violently attacked him and fellow party member Figo Chan in separate police vans yesterday morning. They were among those carted away by police after scuffles broke out between the pro-democracy group and some pro-China ralliers during a protest. In a phone interview, Demosisto founder Joshua Wong says he's worried about the rise in violent suppression of dissent by police.
It's really a shame for Hong Kong, such an international city. Peaceful demonstration after they have been arrested and taken to the police car. Police just use violence and to punch them and beat them. Is really ridiculous.
Wong himself was taken into a police van during the same protest in handcuffs. He also questioned the threat to pull his gun at him and his party members while they were handing out leaflets outside the Causeway Bay MTR station during the July 1st rally. Online media platform Stand News released a video purportedly showing the exchange. He insists the way the police handled the pro-democracy demonstrators over the past few days shows Hong Kong's decline into a police state.
Police, they would just use violence to control all of the activists. Instead of having anti-terrorism, I think they are just anti-activism. In the first day of the inauguration of the chief executive and also the visit of President Xi, it's just proof that if Carrie Lam wants to solve the society conflict, it's really unachievable under such hotline from the police.
Police wouldn't comment on Ng's case, saying only that a complaint has been received. But they denied that officers had made any threat to pull guns on the activist.
Press freedom in Hong Kong has got worse in the last 3 years, according to the Journalists Association annual report, which blames increasing pressure from Beijing. The report, entitled Two Systems Under Siege, pointed out that Beijing's increased pressure on local media had directly followed Xi Jinping's ascent to the presidency and the 2014 Occupy Central protests. An increase in self-censorship had been the result, the association said. The report highlighted the Economic Journal removing columnist Joseph Lian's column right before the Legislative Council election.
Chinese capital, or the biggest shareholder of a media outlet, will affect the media policy, especially the news coverage. And this will definitely arouse self-censorship, because those journalists or media workers will not just design how news issues should be handled apart from professional standards.
Next to the latest disappointment in China's space ambitions, the launch of the Long March 5 Y2 rocket failed earlier this evening. The heavy-lifting carrier blasted off from the Wenchang Space Launch Center in the southern Hainan province just before 7:30 tonight. But shortly after 8 p.m., state media reported that anomalies were detected during the rocket's flight and said investigations will be carried out to find out what went wrong. This was meant to be the last drill for the Long March 5 series before it carries the Chang'e 5 lunar probe into space later this year. Now to the UK, where Brexit negotiations already appear to be on a knife edge, just weeks after formally beginning, as a report in the British press suggested Theresa May could be preparing to walk away. The Sunday Telegraph said that British business leaders have been warned that the Prime Minister could make a stand over the mooted divorce bill of more than $100 billion. It's understood the move could be designed to play to domestic audiences in the UK to show that the country is negotiating hard with the European Union over its exit from the organisation. The Prime Minister's office has not yet commented on the reports, while the newspaper has not disclosed how it got the story. Now, Qatar's foreign minister has said that the list of demands made by Gulf states were made to be rejected, accusing them of trying to curtail its national sovereignty. Speaking to reporters in Rome, Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdurrahman Al Thani said that the lists of demands and the ultimatum delivered by Egypt, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain. The four countries have blockaded Qatar over accusations that it supports terrorism.
This list of demands made to be rejected. It's not made to be accepted or not made to be negotiated. The state of Qatar, instead of rejecting it as a principle, we are willing to engage in providing the proper condition for further dialogue.
Now to the U.S., and a shooting at a nightclub in Arkansas has injured 25 people after a fight broke out at a hip-hop concert. All those who were injured are expected to recover from the incident, which took place in the city of Little Rock in the southern state. No arrests have yet been reported. The state's governor has now called for a fresh effort to lower violent crime in the city. Little Rock's mayor said action had already been taken against the venue.
I want to reassure our public that this was not an act of terrorism, but a tragedy, a local community tragedy. It does not appear to be a planned shooting. It appears that there was a disagreement amongst a small subset of individuals at a concert that turned violent because of the presence of rivalries and weapons.
Meanwhile, the FBI have charged a former PhD student at the University of Illinois with kidnapping a Chinese visiting scholar at the school 3 weeks after she went missing. Investigations are continuing, but authorities believe she is already dead. Diane Hodges has more.
It's the news that friends and relatives were dreading to hear. Investigators believe a missing Chinese student is dead. 26-year-old Yingying Zhang disappeared from the University of Illinois June 9th, only a few weeks after she arrived. Police say 27-year-old Brent Christensen admits picking her up at a bus stop. They've now charged him with kidnapping, but say they believe Zhang is dead. Christensen graduated from the school in May with a master's in physics. News of his arrest caught the community by surprise.
I've received many emails from faculty and students expressing shock that this happened. Those that knew him are quite surprised. There was no hint of something like this.
There are about 5,600 Chinese students at the University of Illinois, more than any other U.S. college.
That's fine, Diane.
On a university website, Chancellor Robert Jones is asking everyone at the school to keep Zhang's family in their thoughts and to focus on a celebration of her life.
Now, staying in the U.S., and Donald Trump has continued a verbal assault on MSNBC TV hosts Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough with a series of late-night tweets on Saturday. The U.S. president tweeted, "Crazy Joe Scarborough and dumb as a rock Mika are not bad people, but they're low-rated shows dominated by their NBC bosses. Too bad." It follows from another attack on the pair on Thursday in tweets that were condemned by politicians and commentators on both sides of the political divide, including senior Republicans like House Leader Paul Ryan. Meanwhile, Trump appeared at the Kennedy Center in Washington to talk to military veterans, honoring them ahead of the July 4th Independence Day holiday. In an event that resembled many of his campaign speeches, the president railed against the news media against a background of choir singing and flag waving. He accused what he called the fake media of trying to silence him, claiming his victory in November's presidential election showed they had failed.
We won and they lost. The fact is, the press has destroyed themselves because they went too far. Instead of being subtle and smart, they used a hatchet. And the people saw it right from the beginning.
Now, time for a break, but don't go away. When we return, we'll be taking a look at the Tour de France and how one slip might have already changed the race.